Well, hi again, everyone. I'm so excited to be doing this, and a big shout out to the Help Network for hosting this Black History Month panel. My name is Ashely Biski, and I will be the host / moderator for the night. And with us tonight are some of the biggest names that are paving the way for BIPOC talent in the industry right now. And I'm humbled, I'm honored to be doing this with you all. And with that being said, I'd like to start off with you guys introducing yourselves and where the people may know you from. And we'll start with the order I have. Mela, you're first.
Okay. My name is Mela Lee. I might be known as Jade from Mortal Kombat with my Kodal right here. Lifeland from Apex Legends. Kiki Mora from the Owl House. Or Tiki from Miraculous Ladybug. Some of those things. And a couple other things.
Oh, just a couple. Just a couple. That's fantastic. Phil?
Hi, I'm Phil LaMarr. Do on camera, do voice acting. I'm the voice of Kotal Khan in Mortal Kombat, along with Mela. And also worked on Futurama and back working on Futurama and Static Shock, Samurai Jack, and Green Lantern in Justice League. As those are, you know, the voice things.
Just the voice things.
I'm proud of.
You should be. You're my Green Lantern. You're my Green Lantern.
Same here. Same here.
Very good taste.
Arif?
Oh yes. My name is Arif Zahir. I'm currently cast on Family Guy's Cleveland Brown, and I am a YouTuber as well. My name is Azers, which I do voice impressions and play video games.
Such a great life, right? Like, that's all you can ask for. And Miss Kimberly.
Hello, I'm Kimberly Brooks. Just pretty much voiceover. Right now, I just finished I was the voice for the Olympics, for the Beijing Olympics. That was pretty amazing. And I do a lot of animation. You might know me from, I'm on South Park, and I just got a little role in Simpsons, which is exciting. Lewis. And what else? Princess Allura from Voltron. Jasper from Steven Universe, if you're into that sort of thing. Others. And what? Oh, DC superhero girls. Yes.
Yes.
I'm trying not to fangirl over here.
Right. You're not trying to fangirl. I mean, shoot, I'm trying to get like y'all. You guys are killing it. And with that being said, that brings me up to my very first question, which I'm sure everybody wants to know. What did your journey to success look like? Because I would say, in my opinion, you guys are successful in what you're doing right now. And especially, what did your journey look like in an industry whose foundation did not favor people like us? And I guess we'll start in the order that we introduced ourselves. So Mela, you're first.
I loved music and theater and had an academic full ride scholarship and a theater scholarship, and I ended up giving the theater scholarship back. I'd been told by a professor that not only was it not an industry for people of color, but for someone who was mixed race, I just wouldn't fit into whatever small box they had, and advised me to be pretty somewhere else. And my biggest regret is that I listened. And I just did voiceover. You know, I took a class and did a few commercials and a little bit of ADR, which is a post production sound voice replacement, and kind of was on the edge of the industry before I was going to go to law school. And then I didn't go to law school, and I kept doing a little bit of animation, games, more animation, audiobook, and realized I could be miserable anytime in my life and go to law school later. But I decided to stay in voiceover. I kind of won a golden ticket. I feel like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and I can't believe I get to hang out with legends like everybody here. It's just, I never knew I would grow up to be in a place that was so wildly inclusive now and moving in such a beautiful direction, not just for people. And I mean, I'm a woman of color, but also I'm biracial. And so it's lovely to be able to represent multicultural diversity, not just fit into that box of like, check, check, check. We're diverse.
Right.
But the depth of characters, to have my first big love scene in a game be with Phil freaking LaMarr. I'm sorry, I'm done. Mic drop. Law school, you're dead to me.
Wow, that's fantastic. And it really hit a nerve with me because I'm biracial. So that was something that I dealt with growing up, was I didn't fit into, the black box, definitely didn't fit into the white box.
Yeah.
So it was like, how do I walk this path of life to where I can belong? So that's beautiful. Wow. Law school, who is she? Right? Who is she?
know, right?
Who is she? Phil.
Okay. You sure you want me to go?
Yes.
Yes.
Because I'm gonna have to go back in time. We're gonna go in a time machine.
Let's go. Let's go.
Because I came up in a completely different world
Yeah.
than all of you guys.
Mhm.
So, I graduated college in 80. Actually, no, my very first professional job was in voiceover, weirdly enough, before I graduated high school.
Wow.
And before voiceover, actor was a job description.
Mm-hmm.
I always joke that, like, before Bill Gates, tech billionaire wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
But now, there's tons of them.
Right.
And when I was coming up, voice actor did not exist as a job description. It was just the stuff Mel Blanc and those guys do.
Right.
There was no term for it, but in high school, I was doing plays, and a friend of my mother's worked for NBC and wound up getting me a job on the Mr. T cartoon my junior year of high school.
Oh my God, I remember that. That was good.
And because they had decided to use real kids for the kids, and I mean, the show was basically a cash grab. Somebody said, well, we got a cereal. Did we do a cartoon yet? Well, who left this money on the table? And so they decided to do a ripoff of Scooby-Doo, where Mr. T was the coach of a gymnastics team that traveled around solving mysteries, like gymnastics teams do. No, it was not good, but it got me my SAG card. And when I graduated college, I came back home to LA, where I grew up, and decided to pursue a career as an actor. And I had discovered improv comedy in college, and that drew me in LA. I started taking classes with the Groundlings and began to, do the improv stuff, and then began to write. And I was doing that just to serve myself creatively, because back in the late 80s, early 90s, the actor path, that was not an actor path.
Mm-hmm.
It was, you came to LA, you got a day job, and you tried to get work. And, well, actually, no, first you tried to get an agent. Then, once you got an agent, then you tried to get work. And there was very much a set path.
Mm-hmm.
And everything was, these boxes that Mel was talking about, they weren't boxes, they were cages. They were hard. And it's funny because I will, joke to, young people of color today that, like, there was a time when I used to audition for gang parts
Yeah, me too.
and got them, which is, absurd to people. Like, who the hell would cast you as a member of a gang?
Right.
Like, hey, I was darker than a paper bag. I look like a gang member. Yeah, Hollywood Shuffle is real. But no, I was fortunate enough to come up in a time when things were slowly beginning to change. I mean, I started taking classes at the Groundlings, and then I started getting work from the Groundlings because, improv was a suburban art form. And so whenever anybody came to the Groundlings looking for talent, and they said, we need a black guy. It's like, we have one down in the second level class. And so I started getting jobs. And eventually that sketch comedy and writing and character stuff led me to Mad TV. And that was my first steady gig. Although I remember the most significant gig was in 1992. I got cast on The Royal Family, a sitcom starring Red Fox and Della Reese. And that was the job that got me my insurance.
Wow.
And that's when I said, oh my God, I am making my living as an actor. I was so excited, I sent flowers to my agents.
Oh.
But then I realized that making a living as an actor was a moving target. Just because you had it this week didn't mean you got it next week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the crazy thing, you know, everyone said, oh, the rejection is the hardest part. No, it's not the rejection. It's the fact that you get rejected every week, every month. Like, we're all glorified temps.
Yeah.
Any job you do, other than The Simpsons, will eventually end. And then you're going to have to go look. I mean, even you, Tom Hanks, like, yeah, I just spent 6 months shooting a movie. Now go get another job.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to look back on the path that I came through from the point of view of 2022. And Arif, you and me gonna have to talk.
Yeah.
Because your job now was a job I saw at the beginning
Mm-hmm.
and was mad about it.
Yep.
Hmm.
Because, well, we'll get into that later.
Yeah.
Right.
But I went for Mad TV, and after leaving that, I began to pursue voiceover, which is weird because that's where I started, but I never thought of it as a career. But when it finally started to come back into it, I found a place of comfort
Hmm.
and good fortune. I was fortunate enough to work with some of the best, most talented, creative people early in my career. You know, one of my first shows was The Weekenders on Disney with Gray Delisle and Jason Marsden and Kath Soucie, you know, and just incredible voiceover talents. And that was, you know, a wonderful way to start because you learned the way it should be done. And then everything began to build from there. All right, that's
Incredible.
Sorry,
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
30 years is too long to
Wow.
talk about.
No, the fact that you can speak from a position of where you saw the changes up till now, you know what I mean? I feel like that's a beautiful thing to where, you know, now, I mean, hopefully one can hope that, you know, the little black girl, the little black boy that wants to do this now, you know, and take comfort. I think we all do, that they don't have to deal with the stuff that we dealt with, you know, coming into this. You know, the door is open in a sense to where now they can walk through it. I think that's beautiful. Arif.
Yeah. So I came from a background of like being a little kid, being this class clown, doing these voices. I used to do like impressions and stuff in high school and making my classmates laugh. And then when video games like really became multiplayer platforms where you can talk to people around the world, right? I had said when I was a little kid, I wanted to be a stand-up comedian / actor. That was my biggest dream. And then, so I'm starting to play Call of Duty, like video, and I do these voices in my, like I do, at the time, Cleveland Brown, like I was a big Family Guy fan, right? So I'm doing Cleveland, Herbert, Peter, you know, every little kid does, like especially millennials are going to be doing impressions of Family Guy characters. At the time, they weren't that good, but when you have the distortion of the microphone, it sounds like Peter Griffin's actually talking to you. So I was getting these reactions of people laughing and they were adding me and be like, yo, man, you should make this a YouTube channel. And I was like, I don't know if that'll work, but whatever. So in 2012, 13, I had made my channel and I had done, the Cleveland show was really popping at the time. And I was a big fan of that. And I was really impersonating him because in high school, during summer school, my teacher would be like, one time I did Cleveland and my teacher was like, wow, that's really good. And I was like, really? So I went on and for like, every night for like 2-3 months, I'm doing this Cleveland Brown voice till 4 a.m., making all these kids laugh on the mic. Like it felt like I was doing stand-up, but virtually. And I'm like, wow, this is a cool platform. This might work. Made a channel. And over like 2-3 years, 2014, 15, I was building a following. I had around like 80,000 subscribers. I'm like, wow, this is really going somewhere. Wasn't paying the bills yet. I was still working as like an ice cream shop guy for like, 2 years straight. And then I don't know, I had this affinity towards Seth MacFarlane characters, whatever. Ted, the teddy bear. I did an impression of him playing Call of Duty, and that video blew up. And my channel just went like this, and I was able to pay my tuition for college for it, which is insane. I'm like, wow, this is a real thing. Then I started doing my own original characters on my channel, and I built a huge following from that. Went 1 million, 2 million, 3 million. I'm like, wow, this is incredible. Never thinking one day I'd play Cleveland Brown. And then when, unfortunately Mike stepped down for that, I was like, there's no way they're going to, they're probably just going to write him out of the show. Right. And initially my friends were like, yo, man, this is perfect for you. My fans were like, you can step in. I've been doing the Cleveland Brown voice for almost 10 years now. Like I've been mastering it and watching the show a bunch. And I'm like, I don't know, man, they're not going to. And then 2 weeks later, I get like an email asking, hey, would you like to audition? No, of course, yeah. No, but yeah, I auditioned. It took like about a month. There were moments where I'd send in an audition and I wouldn't get response. I'm like, yeah, well, the chance that I got to audition for it was enough, And then about 2 weeks later, they'd come back and be like, well, you're moving on to the next round of auditions. Can you do it again? Do this. Then I ended up doing that. 2 weeks later, same thing, same deal. The whole time it was I was like, at the end of the day, if I just got to audition for Family Guy, that is enough for me, And then at the end of the time, about a month later, I got, they offered me the part, which was, I felt like I was being pranked. It was incredible. So I had to keep it on the hush hush for like 3 or 4 months after I was telling my mom, of course. But I was like, it came out. The second that they announced it, it was like 9 a.m. on the dot. I guess all these news articles and platforms were like, had like a, I don't know, timed thing, because my phone went zoom, 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 like all day notifications. I'm like, wow. And it started cool. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. And then about 30 minutes later, obviously you're gonna have fans, forget this YouTube guy, TikTok, he's not a real actor. Why would they replace him? I hate this guy, I hate this. And I'm like, whoa,
Yes.
And at first I was like, the whole day I was kind of like, my mom was like, forget the haters, but I was getting it, like, I get it. They see this, they're like, oh, this is Black Lives Matter taking over there. And I'm like, wow. And I'm the face of this at the time, and I'm like, and I wasn't ready for like Hollywood hate, right? I was ready for, I had YouTube. It's since died down. And luckily I came from a place where I had fans that would respond to them and go, no, check out this video he did. And they would refer to a video of me doing Cleveland, and I'd have them comment back and go, all right, he's pretty good. All right, I'll give him a shot. And, I was lucky in a place like that. A lot of, back then, if this was like 90s and 80s, actors wouldn't have that YouTube platform to have people to revert to. And I was lucky to have that 6 million people to help back me up for that. Yeah, it's been an incredible time. It's been surreal because it's during the pandemic. No physical table reads or, I go into the studio with like everyone was on Zoom and stuff like that. But for the most part, it's been fun. Still doesn't feel real, but I'm incredibly thankful for it.
Nice.
No, it's real. It's real.
Yeah.
You're literally the like poster for whenever they're like, make your own content. And everyone's like, why? Like, what's that gonna do for me?
Exactly.
You literally made your own content and now look. So now when everybody's like, make your own content, why? I would be like, because, and then show them you. Man, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Kimberly?
That is such an incredible story. I had no idea. That's amazing. That really is. Yeah, my story's so boring now. I don't know.
I don't think so.
I'm sure it's
Some
not.
voiceover classes. Well, I mean, I was a theater person, theater major. I went to a high school that had a really great theater department. And so I had great training just from, I did like children's theater and then I went to Cal State Long Beach and I was a theater major and I moved to New York and I did that kind of stuff. But I always knew I wanted to do voiceover. I just, like Phil was saying, I just didn't know that it was actually a job, But I knew that I mimicked it a lot when I was a kid, being the announcer was kind of the thing I wanted to do. So, yeah, so I took voiceover classes when I was in my early 20s. And it was at a place called Voice Tracks West, which I still work with. And it was really cool. Like I took Cindy Akers. I don't know if anyone remembers that. I'm really dating myself here. That was like, I was like, that was like 1902 or whatever. I don't remember. But anyway, so I was lucky because, and like Phil was saying as well, I've always felt like this is what I wanted to do and I was in the right place. I've always believed that was something that I should be doing. So I think that's another thing that people have to consider is
Mhm.
everyone has their dream of the thing that they want. And I feel like those things are there for a reason.
Mm.
So that's kind of, and everyone's is different. It might seem the same, but there's like some variation. Because mine was I wanted to be Don LaFontaine. Like why? I don't know why. And he was the announcer. If you just happen to not know who he is, he was just that voice of authority that we heard growing up. At least I did. And he was on like every network. So I would mimic that. And that was just my thing that I wanted to do. So I took a voiceover class, fish to water. It was wonderful. At this time I was taking class at Kalmanson in Kalmanson, another place. And they called me, they also do casting. So they called me in for an audition just based on what I'd been doing in class. And it was an Army commercial or something. It was my very first audition and I booked it. It was really amazing. And so the same thing happened the second week. And it was another commercial. It was like a Doritos commercial and radio. These were both radio commercials. And I booked that too. The instructor, Kathy Kelmanson, was like, "Do you have an agent?" And I was like, "No." So she called my agent, who I was with forever, Sandy Schnarr, and I'm basically walking in with 2 spots that she could negotiate and get her 10%. And I remember going in, she's like, "Okay, yeah." She was gonna sign me. She's like, "Well, do you do any like kid voices or can you that animation?" And I really hadn't done that. And I was like, "Sure." And so I went into the booth with the voice director who was in there, Art Butler. I don't know if you guys know Art Butler, but I still to this day, well, because of COVID, I don't. But before COVID, I recorded like every audition with him at Voice Tracks that I do. Like just that was my routine. But anyway,
Wow.
yeah, it's like this is a long relationship. But anyway, I remember going in and reading some like Dexter's Lab copy and she listened to it and she's like, "Oh, that was great." She submitted me and I actually booked that job. So I had that like kismet
Mhm.
whatever sort of thing. So that was a lot of validation as far as, there's that negative voice like you can't do it. It's too hard, you can't make a living. Whatever the thing is that we're kind of trained to believe. That kind of was quieted for me. I had a job. I worked at the Grammy Awards at the Recording Academy.
Mind you, she was saying her story is boring.
Oh,
Right.
I'm calling you on this one, Kimberly. Not.
Oh, you're so sweet. Well,
I know it's like Babe Ruth. Like I got up, I hit a home run, then I hit another home run.
So it's at the
Oh
Grammy.
no!
I booked all these commercials, my first animation, and now go ahead. I'm sorry,
it
Grammy.
well, I just worked there.
bored.
I answered the phones. This is
Wow.
one of my stories. This is one of my stories. Well, I was aspiring. This was back in the day when you'd have to go to your agent's office and then they would record it on like a little DAT or whatever. And then they would put everybody's audition on one thing and then they would messenger it. Remember those days? That was so long ago. This is way pre-digital. I'm sure a lot of people don't even know what I'm talking about. But so I would try to schedule, and you would have to wait in the waiting room for all the actors to read. So I would try to go on my lunch break. So I would go at like 11:40 and try to be, take my hour and haul ass there and get back. And it was just very, very stressful. But I was booking things. It was great, but they weren't having it. And I actually got fired from that job. And that was like so devastating to me. But that was the last job I had because I was lucky because I don't think I would have just quit my job and really like fully gone for it. So that's kind of how I started and I haven't looked back, and that was in like the 90s.
Oh
Wow.
my gosh. Talk about manifestation.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I really believe in that. I really
yes,
believe in manifesting. I think I'm a manifester.
I think
Um,
so. I think you've proven
I
that
do.
too.
Without really knowing what it is. Like I remember seeing that thing. What was that, Oprah? What was that thing?
The
what was
secret?
The Secret. And I remember seeing that and going like, doesn't everybody do that? Like already?
Oh, oh.
I kind of was thinking that, but yeah, I feel like because there's so much negative and rejection, and I feel like you have to have that to sort of survive in this world of what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. That's really important. Just believing in yourself. And I just remember the first time instead of saying I'm trying to be an actor, or I'm aspiring to be, or I want to be and just saying, oh, I am. I'm a
Mhm.
voice actor. Those kinds of like that way of thinking is just really important. I mean, that's sort of vague, but you know what I mean? Just
No, yeah.
No, I definitely agree.
yeah.
100%. That's
really-
that's 100% important, especially when you deal with rejection all the time. And then
Constant.
you're just like, I'm terrible. I'm gonna
Yeah.
quit. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Just like,
no one's validating me.
right. Right.
But yeah,
Wow.
yeah, it's really a lot of like just believing in yourself, because that's what you put out there, and then when you believe, everybody else believes. So
Yes.
that's just
Kimberly,
kind
where
of,
were you when I started? Like I backed out of the
Right.
industry twice because I was like, no, I can't do this. Like I was the one. So that
yeah,
is important. Having that message that you're saying, you need to know who you are and what you want. Don't let someone else tell you what you are
right.
and what
I
you
mean,
can
I
do.
have that in other
Yes.
areas of my life, but for some reason with this, I mean, and I've had my share, like, we're just bringing it around to the black thing, being replaced because I don't sound black enough. I've had that happen like a few times,
Mm.
and that was a little like,
Yeah.
like now that doesn't fly,
No.
because there's no, you can't, you just, people are who they are, they sound like what they sound
There's no,
like,
yeah.
can't
Yeah.
the boxes and all of that stuff. Yeah, they're
I'm
just
so glad that diversity now isn't, we need more stereotypes, is what it
right.
felt like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Everybody on here before blurs, guys, people didn't, they're like, you sound a little more intelligent. Could you add some color? And you're like,
yeah.
wow, what did
Color.
you just say? So intelligence and color doesn't wait. And then
Right.
like every part of you is crumbling inside, and you're like, I'm sorry, could you repeat what you want?
Right. Yeah.
And I remember when I got Jade and my dad, I was like, I felt the weight, because I love that and obviously she's in the netherrealm, but there was this Polynesian African, and that's my background. And I was like, I felt the weight of it. And what if I'm not black enough? And he's like, if they want to know what a black woman sounds like, Mela, just open your mouth.
Yes.
Right. Oh, wow.
And
Yeah.
my dad, he was slightly famous back in the 60s and 70s. And so he's gone through that definition of being a man of color. And it's really important to have, your parents and your friends and family. I just know that in the last 20 years, the gaming industry, animation, and just Hollywood in general has gone from the 5 crayons in the crayon box. I always talk about that. It's like when you're a kid and you're like, they're like, here, keep yourself busy. And they give you those really cheap crayons. There's like 4 of them.
Yeah.
You're supposed to create a world out of it. And it feels kind of cheap and not beautiful.
Right.
And I feel like we've come to a place where we have hundreds and hundreds of colors they're expecting, and all the different shades, not only of skin, but of character and culture. And it's really exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. You guys basically almost answered my next question, but this is a great segue. So thank you for that. My question was, on top of that, the black sound, so to speak, do you all feel like truly that the industry is finally coming to terms with the fact that, I'll just call it what it is, the black people don't sound like the black stereotype? And how do we change that image to be portrayed correctly as a culture for who we really are, what we really sound like? What needs to be done, really?
I'm going to ask our patron saint, Phil LaMarr, who has played every shade of the rainbow, and intellectuals and gods and warriors. Talk to us, Phil, about that.
Well, no, it's interesting that because to me, this is the core of it, because the goal of diversity is 2-pronged. It is fairness, but it is also excellence.
Mm.
Because the more perspectives that you bring into a creative realm, the greater the likelihood of something being interesting. I mean, Shakespeare didn't just keep writing about British people.
Yeah.
He wrote shit in Italy,
Yeah.
Denmark, because he's drawing not just from the one thing he knows
Right.
and lives, because I mean that's part of his creative genius.
Mhm.
He's reaching out, and that's something that all creative people, it's about expansion. I worked for years with Dwayne McDuffie on Static Shock and Justice League, and Dwayne was a comic book writer and co-creator of Milestone Comics, the first Black-owned comic book company. And Dwayne unfortunately passed away at too young an age. But we have an award that we give out yearly, the Dwayne McDuffie Award for Diversity in Comics. And the motto on the award is "From invisibility to inevitability." And that's the path we're on. Because, I mean, and it's a really complex topic. And I mean, Arif, the Family Guy replacement, and when all that stuff was happening, I was getting backlash. Or, I mean, because there were people who, probably the same haters who came at you.
Right.
It's like, why are they changing making these? Phil LaMarr plays white characters.
Yeah.
Why can't these white actors play black ones?
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like,
Seen that.
so you have no concept of history?
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Right.
That's the exact same thing.
Yeah. It's
Right.
that's so equal. Yeah.
Right.
And I don't think everyone knows the opportunity wasn't necessarily there.
Right.
Like, even for
Right.
Kimberly, Phil, or I, and not to not include you, Arif, but you've come in at a much better time. But we would get characters, but the odds, I don't even know how we beat those odds to play white, pink, a galactic characters. I wasn't fully aware of how things were stacked against me. But you're the one. Like, when I'm the blackest person, there's not a whole lot of diversity in casting.
Right.
And I would sometimes get someone, hey, we're doing something, you're perfect for it. And I would show up and I was so grateful for the job. They're like, okay, so you're a crack whore. And I'd be like, what part of,
Right.
Yeah.
and then I would do it and they're like, there it is. Could you make it a little more colorful?
Colorful.
And I'd be like, where is this
Colorful.
person from? And you're like, typical AA Reid. And we talked about this the last time. I was like, an Alcoholics Anonymous, like a former alcoholic. They're like, no, African-American. I was like, great. From what city? They're like, urban. From what city? And like, for me, like, from a multicultural background, and my mom was born in England, and I'm like, so what city? You would never say, listen, our character's white. They're from Whiteteria. Like, you're just, but where are they from? Who are they? What makes them move? What makes them tick? And so I know I've gone off on a tangent, but that concept also is that I would fight, and I'm sure Kimberly and Phil can relate to this, to be cast in anything, but not to be now to go, okay, so now Mela, you can only play someone who looks like Mariah Carey, who is, an 8 this, a 60. That's not the concept of diversity. Like you said, Phil, and I'll let it go back to you, that the access. Now I'm allowed to read. I have a wonderful agent and they give me everything. And it's wonderful to get these rich, beautiful characters.
Right.
I don't want to be, we didn't fight this hard to resegregate.
Yeah.
No, right. That's the thing. Yeah, people are like, okay, now, I mean, and that's the weird thing to me. And it's, again, very complicated, the authenticity thing. Because like when all of that recasting was going on, I was about to tweet this, but I thought nobody's going to get the jokes. Like, in light of the controversy about casting and voiceover, I have decided that should this character that I've loved and played for many years come back, it would not be right for me to play him. So in the future, Hermes Conrad of Futurama will be played by an actual Jamaican from the 30th century.
Yep.
But I didn't think it'd be good. But no, but Mela, what you're talking about, the growth is coming from the opening of people's perspectives. And the weird thing about the whole controversy of the recasting and stuff was people were coming after the actors.
Yeah. Right.
Actors don't hire themselves.
Exactly.
And the progress that we're seeing now is because the people upstairs are either being more educated, being, just from the internet, seeing more images of more different kinds of Black people or people of very colors. Because when I was coming up, I remember the days when, like, Eric LaSalle was cast as a surgeon on ER. And that was a big deal.
Wow.
It's like, ooh, a Black man is playing a surgeon. Because back in the day, if there was a person of color cast, it had to be a specific reason.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, why is the lawyer Chinese?
Yeah.
Are we gonna make a joke about it later?
Mhm.
That the guy has to come back in an hour? And the fact that the world is opening up is because either the people in the towers are scared, or they're smarter, or they care more. I mean, because like the Simpsons thing, Dr. Hibbert being played by Harry Shearer. That to me, because I saw that at the time, it wasn't an issue. And I know the people who work on The Simpsons, that was not active racism. That was passive lack of priority.
Yeah.
It was a fifth tier character. And it never occurred to anybody that it might be important enough to write another check for somebody to do that. Just have Harry do a deep voice. You're here already.
Yeah.
But now people have a different perspective and they realize, wait, we're casting this character of color. That matters. Let's think about that. Although there are still some people in positions of decision-making authority who aren't there yet. I remember 2 years ago, I worked on a video game and a buddy of mine who's a white voice actor was petrified. He called me, like, I've been trying to talk to you, because he had voiced the character and it was an alien creature or something. And then at the last second, they reskinned it into a Black man and just used his voice. And he was like, I'm about to get canceled. I'm like, dude, it's not about you. It's about these guys at this game who, it's like, it's not just changing it from purple to chartreuse.
Yeah.
And they got to be taught and educated that it matters. And the funny thing is, like, well, if you had reskinned it from male to female, you'd think about changing the voice, wouldn't you?
Right.
Well, yeah, because penises matter to me.
That they understand.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm ranting. I told you I was going to rant.
No, but
I know.
that's great and
That
needed.
was-
I think that perspective is definitely needed for sure. Because even now, I mean, we still see the urban casting calls for a lot of indie stuff. They're looking for the urban sound, or they'll get away with it by writing the script in the way they want them to sound with like the type of vernacular. And you're just like, you're not that smart. I know what you're
Trying to
doing.
be slick. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's actually at least better than the old days where they would have just written it in their tone and then wanted you,
To make
actor of
it-
color,
Yeah.
color it up.
Yes.
Color it up.
Yep, but we've all been there.
Yeah.
But it's Mela, it's funny what you were saying about like them not knowing the distinctions. Like you were saying, what city? And it's funny because I always think about like, in the 70s when you would hear British actors doing the American accent. Hello, I am from America. I would like to have a hamburger. Like, that's not real.
No.
That's not quality.
Well, and I think it's important that you pointed out, and Ashely, in our last panel, you talked about, Ashely, you should introduce yourself if people don't already know who you are. The importance of having people of color in positions of casting and creativity and show running, and yeah, it is not just the actress point of view. And you, can I ask you to introduce yourself?
I guess I can. My name is Ashely Biski. I'm not as fancy as any of these people yet.
Nonsense.
Not yet. I'm not. I've been acting, for pretty much all my life. Got my start musical theater, on camera. Voiceover is new for me, but it is a newfound love and passion. It's something that's kind of taken off really, really fast. And I'm just like, all my years of playing video games, watching cartoons paid off. But I will say, as a woman of color and being biracial, coming up in the on-camera scene, I think it's really important, to have people behind the scenes who are educated, who understand, and who care, because they'll say things that are demeaning. This is my little story time. As an on-camera actress, I had a very prominent agent seek me out. It's very key, seek me out. I didn't seek them out. And she asked me what my hard lines were. And I told her, I'm just not comfortable doing anything nude, full-on nudity. I'm just not comfortable for our interview. And she said, oh, so you're not going to be a leading lady. And I said, excuse me? And she said, well, just from how you look, I know the auditions that they're going to want you for and what I'll put you up for. Your body and your type is very exotic. So if you don't want to be nude, then you're just not going to be a leading lady. And I said, thank you so much for your time.
Wow.
Dude.
So, and that was tough. Honestly, I felt good about it in the moment. But honestly, going back, when I was by myself, I really was just like, I've never dealt with anything like that besides, I lived in the South for a little bit. So that's a whole different thing. But, for someone to literally say that I'm not going to be successful if I don't conform what I believe or what my morals are to fit the status quo or the stereotype because I'm a woman of color, I'm exotic and fetishized, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then it made me enraged because it was like, how many of our little girls are coming into this industry thinking, this is their dream and being told things like this, being told that they have to do this, that, and the third and conform what they believe just to make it, just to get a check. And then that kind of drove me to where, well, I'm going to find a way. I'm going to do what I can to make it easy, for little girls to come in where you don't have to do that. You're Black and you're beautiful just for being Black and beautiful. It's not about, what everybody else likes. So sorry, I ranted. I went on my rant.
No, but that's absolutely essential because it goes back to what Mela was talking about in terms of boxes. That was a box that existed for women of color in show business.
Yeah.
And that agent was like, and I'm sure she didn't think she was saying anything negative to you.
No.
She was just handing you a map to success.
Yes.
It's like, well, no, I mean, look at you. They're gonna want you naked.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that she didn't even have the perspective to say that was not right. That was not okay.
Yeah.
You reminded me, actually, my very first agent meeting after I just got back from college, I sat down with some guy who had an office on Sunset Boulevard. And the first thing he asked me was like, so what are you? What do you do? I'm like, I'm trying to be positive. I'm an actor. I act. Like, no, what are you? What type are you? You're a Butterfly McQueen type?
Oh, God.
And I'm like, if you mean, am I a fat Black woman? No, but if you mean, can I play that energy level? Sure. He's like, no, you're thinking of Hattie McDaniel. Butterfly McQueen was never fat. You're thinking of, I'm talking about, Butterfly McQueen, Prissy, I know nothing about birth and no babies.
Oh my gosh.
And again, this guy had this image in his head of the boxes.
That is
And
some
it's like,
old
you got to fit into the box in order to work in the system.
Right.
And the wonderful thing, Arif, about your story is to me is that it illustrates the way the system itself has opened up and changed. Because in the old days, the people we're talking to are agents. They're not in charge.
Yeah.
Right.
They are just, like I said, handing the maps of the roads that somebody else built. But now with the internet, We got jetpacks.
Mhm.
We don't need these damn roads.
Right. It's true.
So true.
Ugh.
So true.
I mean, and on the
Ugh.
topic, that reminds me of a time years ago when I first had moved to LA in like 2015. I'm in the Uber, and there's this white Uber driver, and I'm in the back seat, and he goes, "So, man, what do you do?" And classic LA topic. I tell him, "Yes, I'm an actor." I wasn't like on Family Guy yet, obviously, but I was like, "I'm an actor." And he goes, "Actor? Wow, man, wow. Oh man, you know who I really love, man? You know who I Tyler Perry." And I go, "Yeah, he's cool." And he goes, you love Tyler Perry, right? I'm like, "Yeah, he's cool." And he goes, "You know what? I can see you in a Medea movie." And I go, "Well, that's not really my forte. I'm looking for more, I'm a big fan of Jim Carrey. I'd love to be a leading actor in a movie like that,
Yeah.
or like I love Breaking Bad, And he goes, "What? You don't like Medea?" Dude, he slows the car. "Medea is incredible, man. You got to look into that. Oh man, I love Tyler Perry." And I'm like, wow, like he put me into a box where it's like the only
Yeah.
black movies at the time. He couldn't
Mhm.
see anything else, So that was like, eye-opening, so stuff like that.
Yeah.
Ugh.
It's
Yeah,
off-putting business.
Yeah, I think this shows how it's not only important to have actors of color tell the stories truthfully, but it's
Mhm.
important to have casting directors who understand the story, writers who understand the story, directors who understand the story, producers who understand the story, because we just get hired, but who's writing the story to be authentic and true for the character, you know what I mean? So it literally starts from the top and it trickles down. Man, that was a good discussion. Well, not to talk about something a little more lighthearted, but I loved how you guys all talked about your journeys and how you guys basically, were resilient and not stopping, continuing on given the odds against you. But what was something or someone in media that inspired you to even do this, especially knowing, for those that did this before we had more prominent actors of color doing this, knowing that there wasn't a lot of people of color taking up space in this industry, especially.
Cree Summer and Phil LaMarr.
That's a hard one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think too, because of the intelligence. I mean, Cree's not here. Love you, Cree, but Phil is here. Phil, your improvisation, your intelligence, your wit, your range. And when you were saying, actually, it comes down to excellence. I think you brought that up too, Kimberly. The excellence that you represented, Phil, is what really inspired me. I mean, that's a bar, and to know that it existed already, even if it was one or two or three people at the time. Anyone who's watching right now, the opportunities that exist since 2020 even didn't exist 10 years ago. You couldn't meet casting directors on a Zoom and have them really get to know you and hear you and be looking for diversity and non-binary talent, trans talent, people of color from different, and Ashely and I spoke about it. It's like biracial, it's like white, black. They don't understand that we not just that we are Black and something else, but there's this assumption, forgetting that the diaspora, the Indo-Asian African diaspora, it goes across so much of the planet. So, now we've got much more understanding that, Afro-Latina is different than, being from England or Germany or anywhere in the Pac Islanders. It is so much richer now. And if you don't see yourself, and I said this before, if you don't see it, it means that it's your time to be it. So there is room. And as much as the world has changed in the last 10 years, 20 years, as Kimberly and Phil are talking about it, and it's exponentially changing now. So if you don't see yourself, it means there's space for you. Someone's looking for you, your authenticity. So it could be 17 different cultures, but you really like neuroplasticity and quantum physics. And it's not just about skin color. It's about the color of your character and your passion and the things that you love. And right now you have permission to not be in the 4 Crayola box and be like, "I'm gonna get you, sucker." We don't have to do that anymore. Okay.
Yeah.
We don't have to be blackers. You get to be an exquisitely drawn, different, deep human being that can, give humanity to characters from all kinds of planets, all kinds of worlds. You are perfectly, wonderfully drawn exactly as you are. Please don't put yourself back in the cage. This is a Nana
Well
quote,
said.
and it's not to get political, but in 2020, when things were marching and things were getting kind of dark, I said, Nana, is this like, and she's 94, she's seen it. I said, is this like back in the 60s? And she said, oh no, baby, we're grown now. And she was like, you knew like we weren't going back in the box. They will
Right.
expect something different. And you get to be different. You get to be in anything that you are. And no shade to our urban brothers and sisters. If that's where you're from, come on, let's bring it. There's room for you. You don't have to pretend to be something that you're not. And you know, Phil, I know you could still be a gangster and I can still be a crackhead. But for all my beautiful exotic dancers and sex workers, come on, like we are in a place where whoever you actually are, that side job is your gold.
Yeah.
Who you actually are, what you've done to get there. There's no shame in your side job, your full-time job. I just narrated a book by Lena Bobby. It's called On Rotation. She's now a published author, but also finishing her residency as a doctor. And this all I got to narrate for her because she is into anime. And she draws graphic novels about her days on rotation. And so she is an illustrator and into anime, and all of these worlds have brought her to her own book deal. She didn't have to stop being who she was to pursue who she was meant to be.
Right.
That's deep. What's your name? Sherlina Wobi?
Charlene Owoye.
Yeah.
It's called On Rotation. Also, Kendra James, Admissions. I'm shouting out my Black authors. Tina Williams, 7 Days in June, New York Times bestseller. It's hot and steamy. Trying to think. Just there's so much to do and be now, and just
It's a good time.
yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Years are
Yeah.
breaking down.
And it's Black History Month. So
Yes.
100%. 100%. Dang, that was beautiful. If you don't see it, then it's your time.
Yeah,
I think that's like a testament. And that's a great starting point for everyone's journey, you know, where it's like, well, I don't see it on camera, you know, no one looks like me. It was like, well, then why don't you take up the space? You know, take up the torch, you know, pave the way. Yeah, that was deep. Does anyone else have anything to elaborate on who inspired them when they didn't see it? Besides yourself, because Mela, besides yourself.
Well, for me, obviously, Phil LaMarr, like as a kid, you know, I mean, I'm 27, so.
Stop, you're gonna make me cry because we're all trying to keep it together, Phil. Like, yeah.
Samurai Jack, come on. I mean, that was like, I'm a big Cartoon Network fan as a kid, especially like, and then Ed and Eddie, everything that was on there, but like Samurai Jack was dope as hell. And I found out it was a brother. I'm like, yo, damn, if I can do this one day, obviously. And then you got people like Kevin Michael Richardson, huge fan of him as well. You know, I love him. So before I'm even on the Family Guy, sorry, seeing him on the Cleveland show and stuff like that. And it was funny because he had voiced Cleveland's best friend was White. And I think no one cared. You know?
I know, that was funny. No one cared.
Well, they did that on purpose.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, that definitely him. Big fan of Donald Glover as well. An actor, musician, actor, voice actor, writer, everything.
Improv, incredible
Literally.
improviser.
Yes. Came from you. I looked at it like I came from YouTube. He came from YouTube with Derek Comedy. Then did his improv and stuff, and ended up doing his own thing. And I always kind of use his path as an inspiration of mine, not copying him or saying I'm following his footsteps, but I use it as, because he was the one, Jim Carrey to me was like my first thing for everything. Eddie Murphy and Jim Carrey, Martin Lawrence were like as a kid. But when I started seeing Donald Glover, who was that blurty, nerdy black guy who sounded white to everyone, paving the way in an area that I wanted to do, you know what I mean? I'm like, wow, and it's funny, another tangent, seeing him, it's different for music, but I remember people going, like, before he blew up after Redbone came out and Atlanta came out, people were like, oh, he sounds too white, he's corny, I don't like him. Then now Black Twitter is like, Donald Glover's the Messiah,
Yeah.
So it's like, after he got successful, it was like this giant thing, and he's in anything he wants to do, So that's a path where I want to take, definitely. And I would say he's currently one of my biggest things I'm looking at right now, like in terms of building a foundation.
Yeah, that's really cool. But yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, it's just a really good time to not fit into a box and everything you said about that. But I had some pretty traumatic things, like I was saying, being replaced and not sounding black enough and trying to fit into a box. But one of my very first shows that I got to work on was with LaMarr, Static Shock. I was Puff,
Yeah.
Puff.
Yeah.
Buddy.
And the other thing that you said too, Phil, I agree with everything you said tonight, by the way. It was just about working with amazing talent and being like, my Kat Susie was also on one of my first jobs, and having great direction with Landrea Romano, and being in the room with you and Jason Marsden, and you just want your game to be up there where everybody else's is. So you were definitely an inspiration to me as well. So I don't know, just in wanting to be in this business and sustain what we do. It's all a part of that whole journey. So anyway, I'm just trying to chime in on agreeing with everything that everybody said.
I agree with everyone. I think, all of you guys are titans, right, in the industry. To me, Phil LaMarr, me and my mom watched Justice League together, and she never watched cartoons. But growing up, she saw that we had a black Green Lantern, and she said, what is this show? And we watched it to the point where we made sure to record every single episode, because she saw somebody who was a superhero that looked like her, which made her want to watch cartoons with me, So that was a special moment for me. And so I thank you for portraying him I believe truthfully, like I said, you're my Green Lantern.
Thank you.
I have to plug my computer in, you guys. I'm not leaving.
No, go.
No, thank you. Thank you guys so much for saying that. That's so sweet. And I do have to certainly give credit where the credit is due.
Yeah.
To the writers and the creators behind those shows.
Yeah.
Dennis Cowan and Dwayne McDuffie and Alan Burnett and Andrea Romano was a genius, is a genius. But it's interesting, you talk about the casting of Green Lantern, because I'm an old school comic book head and grew up in this world where the people of color were not represented. And that was just the way it is. What you gonna do about it?
Right.
And when I got the job, one of the first questions I asked Bruce Timm was like, why is he not Hal Jordan? And it was so fascinating because his decision was not a political one. Bruce, it was about excellence. He's like, I don't want to do a show where 7 white people save the galaxy every week. That's boring. So for him, it was about bringing in new perspectives. But sorry, Ashely, back to your question in terms of people who, inspired. It's funny because I always used to say that my favorite actor is Bugs Bunny. And it's true. Although, I was lucky enough as a kid once to see Mel Blanc at a recording session for Captain Caveman.
Wow.
Oh.
That's dope.
It was towards the end of his career. He had the oxygen tank next to him, and he didn't do the Captain Caveman. He had recorded it once, and they would just like plug it in because they didn't want to make him, strain himself to do it. But just to actually have been able to see that. And another, obviously, huge inspiration was Sidney Poitier. Even though, he was a generation ahead of me in terms of, as a performer, but he opened, actually he didn't open doors, he built damn doors.
He built
cut holes in walls,
Right.
and made pathways, that, a generation later, made things possible for me. But the people that I remember growing up, Robert Guillaume, who had played
Loved
Benson
him.
on Soap and then had his own spinoff,
Yep.
was, because I used to watch a lot of TV. I used to know back when there were only 3 channels, I knew every show and every cast member on every show. I memorized TV Guide.
Yeah.
And, he was the first, African American man I saw with his own sitcom.
Mm.
Granted it was a spinoff, but still, like, it was interesting because he had come out of a relatively, stereotypical thing, the Black butler, but he was so good that they couldn't ignore his talent. Like, okay, we got 900 other characters, we're gonna spin this one off.
Right.
Again, excellence speaking to itself. And Robert Townsend was also a really strong inspiration for me because Robert was doing his stuff at the time that I was, coming into the business, but seeing somebody not just funny and Black, but creative and building and writing and like, oh, we can not just wait around and get hired, we can make stuff and write things from our unique perspective. To me, what Robert was doing with Hollywood Shuffle set the tone for what we're talking about now, how there are so many more versions of us. No one had ever told that story about Black actors before because no one thought it mattered. But when he came out with Hollywood Shuffle, that was groundbreaking just for actors. But as a man of color, to be able to do what he did and basically start the whole Wayans, world.
Right.
He laid a foundation.
Right.
And I think he doesn't get honored enough.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he's honored today.
Yes.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. I have a question for you, Mela. So you are, I would say, done so many anime, you know what I mean? Anime queen, especially when there weren't people who look like us doing anime. And I think now it's so prevalent to cast more people of color in anime. But what we're seeing now is that there's like a backlash. But it's like, but y'all didn't know that, Mela, you've been voicing these people, for years and nobody knew about it. You know what I mean? Until now, it's like, why are you using, she doesn't sound whatever, but it's like, what? You guys look, you call yourselves fans and you don't even know. So my question is, having done so much anime, what does that climate, like from an anime perspective, feel like now? Seeing, more people of color come in, but kind of just like where like the fans sit with all of that. Like, is it, I guess.
Anime fans are some of the most accepting and diverse crew of people. So it's a very, I think they're about the story. I think that anime was a precursor to this diversity movement because as an art form, it's already everybody's every different color, pink, purple, blue, like there's so much diversity in the animation itself. I also didn't know better. I liked anime, but anime sessions included free food. And sometimes, like the craft service, they would let me take the emergency, some oatmeal packets and bananas home. So I wasn't going to starve that week. I was like, what? An anime session? So I was really excited about anime sessions because they had good food. And I remember, I did ADR, which is the post-production sound, and you match flaps, and anime kind of came because of that. And in conjunction with that, being a musician, I have a good sense of timing. So I was able to apply that work. There weren't really any characters of color in anime.
Yeah, like almost at all.
And so I wasn't thinking, well, why am I not getting the Mariah Carey or the Black character? They just didn't exist. Or if they did, they were just white and they had a tan. So I think, with Noir Caesar and some other companies, it was interesting to meet with fans and have them and say, because I hadn't really noticed. They're like, you were the first major leading Black anime actress.
Yes.
Or Fate Stay Night, Yuki Cross and Vampire Night. And I think it's important for everyone who's watching to understand that you need to follow your passion and your purpose, have blinders on, But the reason why it's important for you to celebrate yourself is you give someone permission to do the same.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't aware of the impact of what I was doing in anime. Because I mean, also because I'm looking up to Kimberly Brooks and LaMarr, Summer, like you're not like, oh, I'm an anime actress. You're not thinking that. But I'm excited because Zeno Robinson and I are now doing a lot of stuff, and Zeno is such an incredible actor, and it's a segue that, you know, he'd wanted to do anime, but could play any character. We just want the diversity, want the opportunity. And I think, you know, not elephant in the room, but I think I was, you know, an acceptable shade sometimes. And that made me uncomfortable because they would ask me to do things that weren't authentic to me. And then for a second, anime, all of a sudden, they started putting in Black characters. And that's all they would be like, hey, we've got this Black maid and she beats kids. Can you do it? And you're just like, it was almost like there was this diversity, like the desire to be diverse in our storytelling, but we had to spend the last 10 years maybe teaching the people that are writing or casting what that actually meant. I didn't spend my whole career to do what that professor told me in college, that you're going to play servants. I mean, if you're comfortable playing servants, then you could be in the industry. That, I mean, clearly was not correct. But I didn't like spend 10 years, you know, becoming an overnight sensation so that people could be like, listen, we need you to play a maid. And you're just like, do you hear what you've just said? Listen, we've got we're going to add a person of color to this, you know, princess doll series, and your superpower is cooking and cleaning. And you're like, the other people, invisibility and time travel, but I bake cakes.
Yeah.
And so it's laughable. I'm sorry I've gone off on this tangent.
No.
The concept of part of it's just that you still need a job. So there has to be one. So let's be the one. But anime, I think the community, very, very accepting. I remember meeting some fans who were surprised when they actually saw me, you know, and they're like, oh. and then it's okay. But I didn't know when I went to Australia and I was signing, and there was this whole family, Indigenous family, and they were like, you're the first one of us. And I didn't understand that 2 or 3 of my animes, it was Fate Stay Night, Blade of the Immortal, and I think Vampire Night, they were all on the same channel. And so this whole family came, and they were almost in tears, and I felt really nervous. You know, John DiMaggio is next to me, and Bill Farmer, the voice of Goofy, and I'm like, what am I doing here? I'm in an anime, like feeling like, why am I here? These are giants. And this family came up to me, and the girl was shaking, and she's like, I'm so nervous to meet you because I want to do this, and you've inspired me. And I remember, like, I'm thinking about now, I was like, I'm nervous too, because I thought, what am I doing here? Nobody here looks like me. And you don't really notice it until you notice it.
Yeah.
Until someone points out the odds you've overcome. And then it's almost like, don't look down. And you look down and you're like, okay, you start getting scared. So I think it's beautiful that anime got me into this business. But it also, looking back in the 10 years ago, that we didn't have Lifeline with freckles and light eyes who looks just like my Nana. We didn't have, Jade was a little more ambiguous, and now she's got this beautiful like skin, and just, I have cousins and I get to play characters that represent all of my family. And it's really important as an actress to get to do that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I was like,
Yeah.
oh.
That's amazing. Mela, you spoke to another barrier that has come down. When you were talking about, you're there between Bill Farmer and John DiMaggio, you know, Disney cartoon, network cartoon, anime. In, you know, the decade before or pre-internet times, those were worlds apart, you know, but there's something else that's changed. And it's funny because there's the progress that has come, you know, about us actually trying to make the world better. But then there are also just technical things that have opened things up. The fact that the internet, the fact that there aren't 3 channels run by 3 guys who run a, thing, it's changed the concept of fame,
Right.
because before you were on, one of those Saturday morning cartoons, 20 million people watching every week or whatever.
Mhm.
But now we have 20 million channels
Right.
with 400,000 people watch, oh, you got 500,000 people watching, you're a hit. I mean, Arif's got more people watching his YouTube than there are watching somebody on a network show. And the concept of, and also just the fact that, now we know. When I was growing up, I watched cartoons. Those cartoons affected me. They touched my life. I didn't know who those people were.
Right.
Mhm.
Don Messick did all the characters. I still to this day don't know what he looks like.
Hmm.
And the fact that, anime fans, I'm not big into the world, because when I came up, anime wasn't for Black people.
Right.
Yeah.
There was no such thing as blurs.
Yeah.
You were either Black or a nerd.
Yeah.
You couldn't be
Like,
both.
Right. But, the fandom of anime is so deep and, engaged. So now you're on par with the network people. Because
Well, and I mean,
it's
I'm
the
I'm
same
in
level
Disney
of fandom,
shows. Definitely,
those-
I'm in Disney shows, and Jade from Mortal Kombat. I thought that was going to be the big thing. I got to be with LaMarr. That was like my benchmark. And and then people are like, "But you're Reen from Fate Stay Night, or you're Yuki Cross," and I'm like, "How did these things become?" And they just are. And you're like, "Okay, it's cool. It's cool.
It is.
I'm okay."
yeah, things that were fringe before, like,
Mhm.
oh, it's a fandom. It's not.
Yeah.
That's fame now.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because when we're talking about these issues and actors' responsibility, and like, in the 90s, like my boy Kevin, Michael Richardson, was on Homeboys from Outer Space, which was controversial at the time, because it's like, but the reason it was controversial is because there were so few shows about us.
Mhm.
We can't afford to have that one.
Yeah.
Mm.
Now we got Atlanta, we got, the neighborhood. It's like, we could have Homeboys from Outer Space now. Let's have a goofy ass, space show with Black people.
Yeah.
Then there was Homeboys in Outer Space and the Cosby Show. Nothing in between.
Oh my God.
So that opens up a question, kind of the same question to Kimberly. You have voiced like every kind of shade, color throughout your years, which I think is phenomenal, given how you said, you didn't know what you were up against or why you even booked half of them. You were just phenomenal. But seeing that, especially as a kid growing up in the 90s and, knowing that, what is it? Is a Black woman that voice? But she's not Black. That's not a Black character. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Out of all of those roles that you've done, which was the role that, or I say just, that really did it for you?
Oh, sorry. It kind of cut out a little bit. Did that freeze for anyone
My
else? or was
connection's
that
cut
just-
Yeah,
out.
that's true.
Yeah, just a
I
touch.
missed it too.
So,
Listen.
let me
on.
rephrase.
Okay.
Okay.
You're
Out
clear
of
now.
all your roles,
Mhm.
out of all your roles, which one touched you or made you feel, more connected to? Because you've done so much over, the course of your career.
Well, I think my first role that I got like super excited about was on Scooby-Doo, one of the Hex girls for some reason, because I think I always wanted to be in a band and I don't know, whatever. And it was just, and I got to work with Casey Kasem and like Frank Welker and all the OG people. And that was really, and Mary Kay Bergman. And it was just an amazing experience. And it was like a show that I actually grew up watching. I was a latchkey kid. I watched a lot of TV, but that show was like Scooby-Doo, come on. So that was like, and I just felt a part of something huge. So that was my first, I think, the first time that I really felt that. But there's been a lot of more roles that have come along that have meant more to other people. Like Doc McStuffins. I'm the mom on Doc McStuffins, for instance. Super cute show, just like I don't know, it just meant a lot. I got a lot of love to see a little Black girl as a doctor, and just hearing stories from moms about, their sons going, can I be a doctor too, mom? Like they didn't know, that
Aw.
boys could also be doctors, so it's just changing that landscape. When I hear those stories, I'm like, I love that so much. Just changing that, like you
Yeah.
said, something we've never seen before. So things like that have been important. And the internet, like everyone else has been saying, is amazing in the sense that I didn't know who voiced these characters, but now the fan love. I mean, Steven Universe has been such a huge fan love show. I mean, even though my character is kind of off in her own world, it's spoke to so many people
Mm-hmm.
and gender identity, and which is so similar to everything that Black people have been struggling with, and just so there's been a lot of shows that have given a lot to other people, and being able to go to conventions and see the look on people's faces and hear their stories about how something I did, which I wouldn't have never known. Obviously it's the writers and it's the whole production, but just being a small part of that is amazing. So Princess Allura and Voltron, a Black princess, oh my God. And in the original, of course, she wasn't Black.
Mm-hmm.
So there's been a lot. I've been so fortunate to have those kinds of experiences. And hopefully more and more. I'm definitely seeing, I don't know about you guys, but the auditions and things that I'm getting, there's so many. It's almost like a little bit annoying because it kind of has a thing of like, is this just like a fad? Is this like a new, but no, or it's not it's a shift.
Mhm.
It's a shift.
Agreed.
And it's like, because I was seeing a lot of the same sort of things where what we were talking about before, like maybe the people creating these things need a little bit more educated, instead of just sticking a character in that they think is PC or is going to be, I see the shift changing where it's not just that anymore. It's characters that matter, that have something to say, but it's maybe characters we've never seen before. So yeah, Phil and I worked on a top secret project that's going to be coming out kind of soon, I think. He probably doesn't know what I'm talking about.
Is it
but
still top secret?
it's still top secret, but it's what I loved about this particular project is my character is one of the lead characters, and I don't like, it's just so cool that it's a Black woman. I mean, I can't it doesn't it would never.
The Disney show?
I'm not saying anything about it, but I'm just saying it's something that will come out that would normally, you would see your traditional tropes. You would see your traditional characters, and this character would probably be white or would be so. And Phil's playing a uniquely accented character, and but there's just a lot of wonderful, exciting projects coming, and I think it's all as a result of just the movement that is happening right now, and inclusion and just representation, and just like you said, if you don't see it out there yet, someone wants to see it.
Yeah.
And it's just a really good time for that. So yeah. So for me, Scooby-Doo personally, but for there's a lot of other characters that I think mean a lot to a lot of people.
Oh, that's great. I love Doc McStuffins, and I was too grown to like Doc McStuffins, so my husband said, but I was like, no, they have the Doc McStuffins card in New York. I have to go. He was like, that's for kids. That's not for you. I was like, don't ruin this for me. But yes, I think, and then Jasper, I mean, even though she's a baddie, Steven Universe is a great show. So I want to know, you guys are wealth of knowledge and wisdom. What advice do you have for the young people of color that, this is their dream, they're aspiring to break into this? What do you say to them?
Be a reef.
Yes. Be a reef. I am a reef.
I was gonna say, coming from my perspective, it's like the TikTok, YouTube thing is now the way to go for, like, not the only way, but it's the best way to go for this right now, to get yourself a following, and like I said, if I didn't get Cleveland, I would have had a fall, to fall back on my YouTube channel. A lot of actors back then didn't have that. And I'm very blessed for that. So I would say go for it. And you can, I mean, these kids are like, I see 6-year-olds now or 10-year-olds being viral overnight, doing stuff I like, you know what I mean? Like more voices than me, making rap parodies, and like they sound like they're like these like top tier actors, and they're like 10 because of TikTok. It's crazy. Honestly, this stuff I don't even know how it works. So I would just say go that route for now, because it's like it's working, and trust in yourself, and anyone can be. Now, I mean, I remember years ago, quick little tangent, when I was working at my ice cream shop, and I had showed my friend I had made $400 on YouTube. Now this is like what, 2013, 14. So at the time, nobody really knew that you could make money off of being a content creator like that. And he saw my phone and it said $400, and he goes, bro, I'm quitting now. You can make that much money from YouTube a month. And I'm like, yeah, man, I don't believe it. I'll believe it when I get it, and I got that $400 and it went 400, 500, 600. I'm like, wow. And it's like every kid wants to be like, when I was a kid, I wanted to be the next Jim Carrey, Will Smith, whatever. These kids want to be the next Logan Paul, next.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's possible. I mean, speaking of anime, big YouTuber Corpse husband, and if you guys have heard of him,
Yep.
he's going to be in a new anime now. It's crazy, and I'm sure he got to audition for it. But his voice is just so freaking dope that he's going to be in that. He built the following of playing Among Us, and he got 20 million views per video. It's insane. So I would say definitely obviously I think you don't need me to say it. It's the way to go for now. And yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes.
Incredible.
I love that. Anyone else want to elaborate?
I
Follow your
can't
dreams.
give career advice, because all my career advice starts with get a time machine, and only then will what I'm about to tell you apply.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's kind of how I feel. Like you
But-
youngsters with the TikToks and the
Oh.
I don't know.
Well, because when we came up, again, there were so many barriers, but it made the paths clearer on what you had to do. It's like, and I think there are still some principles that still play. Like Arif, I Googled you before we got on. But what strikes me most about what you're doing is, because I see a lot of the people who do the internet thing, and we're in a time now where attention is its own currency. And some people just like, oh, as soon as I get X number of views or followers or whatever, they stop. But you gotta, if you're gonna be a creative person, you have to continue to grow.
Yeah.
Sure.
And that's true. That was true in the old 3-channel days. If you got on a sitcom, you couldn't just be a sitcom actor, because once that show was canceled, your ass was out.
Right.
Yep.
You have to continue to grow, and for those of us who want to do voiceover, the main thing is, we also say, I always say that voice acting is kind of a misnomer, because the acting comes before the voice.
Right.
Everybody got a voice, but it's what you can do with those words on that microphone and make it affect people. That's the skill.
Yep.
So, for anybody who wants to get into voiceover, my advice is always, what is your performance background?
Right.
Because there are a lot of performers. I find that people with, sketch or improv backgrounds, where they're used to going from character to character to character, or making, snap decisions, translate well into voiceover. Singers also translate well because they have the ear, they can hear, and they're used to using their voice to connect to people. And it's interesting because I've worked with some on-camera actors who are phenomenal on-camera actors, but they ain't that good on the microphone.
Yeah.
Because they're used to having a week of blocking and memorizing lines and putting on a costume before the performance becomes something that affects people. And then you take somebody who's trained that way and just hand them a piece of paper and say, read it.
Yeah.
And
Twice
then
the
they're
whole
just
paper,
reading words off a page. So it's important to have that skill of being able to make the scene on the page real to the ears of the people who are listening to you.
Right.
And there's a lot of different paths to that. You can take an acting class, or like, Arif, like you were doing, you were working with people, and feeling, I mean, what you were doing was basically the same sort of thing I had with my improv training. Like we're doing improv shows, and I'm, and what you're getting from the audience trains you.
Right.
And it gives you an internal gauge. Okay, when I did this, they responded this way.
Right.
And then you internalize it, you memorize it, and it gets in your system. So that when you're in a new situation, you've got those paths, mapped out inside you.
Right. Right.
Yeah. And I'm between Kimberly and Phil and Arif. Like I came in between that. And so what I'm seeing the through line is that even though there's different ways to get in, when you understand who you are and what your brand is, that authenticity, it's quick. Like, who you are. Corpse husband is corpse husband. Like, who you are. And Kimberly and Phil knew they were excellent. So they can walk in the room and be like, I dare you not to hire me. Right. And I remember coming in like 2008, really 2009, after I lost my job at banking. There was a little banking crash. And a lot of people were like, you can't make money in the industry anymore now that YouTube and reality television have taken over. And what they meant is you can't make it the way you used to. But mathematically, I'm a big math person. Like 10, 15 years ago, there was like 500 shows in production because there were only 5 channels, right? There's like 55,000 projects in production now. It's impossible for there not to be a place for you. And when Phil is talking about coming in quickly, why some actors, they feel like they have a week. Right now, voice acting, it's about what you bring to the table. So because they're casting so much more close to you, and it doesn't necessarily mean culturally or, ethnic background, it's who you are. So you have to know what you like. I love, medicine and neuroplasticity and quantum physics and mechanics. And I feel really comfortable in medical, legal, and financial terminology. And like, there's a thing that's like intrinsic to me. And if you come in and you have a job, especially in gaming, you have a script and you have to say it twice and then they move on. So you have like 10, 12 minutes, maybe, with the director who discusses the big picture, where you fit into it, how old you are, what planet you're from, and then go.
Right.
And so it's you've taken that information in, almost like when we were 7 and we'd be like, I'm a plane, I'm a tree, I'm an astronaut, I'm a president. You don't overthink it. When you're 7, you're like, sure, this is possible, right? It's the same thing in voice acting. Do the preparation. So the acting is important, knowing your craft, but knowing who you are and what you bring different. We're done with the days of erasing. So this is where this diversity conversation goes way beyond the color of skin. We are done erasing who you actually are to fit into a box or a cage, right? So I don't care where you're from, if you're, gender fluid, non-binary, any of that, who you are, what you love, what you believe in, shows that align with what you believe in. And when you walk into the room, don't go, okay, who do you need me to be? Walk into the room and audition who you are. If you don't get the job that you've just auditioned for on camera or voiceover, that casting director has 14 different projects they're working on average every year. I call it the rule of 14. So you've auditioned and you might not be right for that project, but they know who you are and they're going to catalog that in the back of their mind. And it may not be next month or next year. I've got a Disney show 18 months later. They were like, oh my gosh, we loved you so much in this audition. We have something for you. But you have to bring who you are. Yeah, Kimberly, go ahead.
It really is a different time because it used to be about trying to be what they told you they wanted it to be.
Right.
And now we're free to show them something they didn't even know existed to fill in those roles, so it is a totally different time. And I'm glad I'm making that adjustment, but I think you have to have the confidence and the knowledge of who you really are to be able to do that. But yeah, because I feel like it's my mentality as an actor, as a voice actor, is always like, what do they want? What are they looking for? What is it that I can give them? But now you're right. It's slowly changed. It's still changing to what do I bring as an individual, as my uniqueness to this role. And I think that's really powerful.
Mhm.
That's
Well,
what we
and
have for
Kimberly and Phil aren't going anywhere because they know who they are.
Oh, no, no, no.
You walk into a room and I'm telling you, we all know who they are the moment they
Oh,
walk
no,
in.
Mela,
The
what's
energy and the consistency of your message, not only as actors, but as human beings, is
Mhm.
astounding.
Oh, no, no, Mela, from what you just said, I'm about to stop working.
I
I don't know who the hell I am.
know that's what my
No, it's no, actually, no, I'm joking. But no, that's a really interesting perspective, especially because I tend to come at things like, my English major thing is text first.
Hmm.
Now, I'm not slave to, I'm trying to read your mind. What do you want? Let me make you happy. I'm not about that. For me, I'll read a script, I'll interpret it, and I'll look for what, makes it exciting, interesting to me. And then I will try to communicate that in my performance.
Right.
And I think that's perhaps a variation on what you're talking about. Like, what do you bring to it? For me,
Yeah.
I bring my interpretation. But it's funny that you said, because when you first started, I was thinking like, oh, she's talking about branding. I'm like, that is so alien to me. I remember I did an episode of Avatar: The Last Airbender, and I was working with Andrea Romano, who I'd worked with, for years. And she said, okay, you're playing the Earth King. Like, okay, what sort are you looking for? It's like, actually, just do your natural voice. And I'm like, what's my natural?
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't have wait, my voice in front of my mom, my voice in front of black people, my voice in front of white, which natural?
Hello, code switching? Yes, hold on. You're right.
Yeah.
But the funny thing was, because it was Andrea,
Mhm.
and we'd actually spent enough time together that she's like, oh, okay. When she said, just be you, I knew what she meant.
Mhm.
But there are a lot of times people say, just do your natural voice. Like, well, you ain't never heard my natural voice.
We've laughed about that audition. How would you do it? And, and what they mean is, how would you fit into my stereotype?
Mhm.
How would my impression of you that I get from looking at you from 20 feet
Sounds.
away do this?
Wow.
That was-
Arif. Oh, sorry.
Oh,
Ashely.
no, go ahead, Mela, go
Having
ahead.
to add, Arif,
Well, sorry. I cut
about
out.
getting into voiceover, or what would your advice be? I mean,
Oh, he started.
Oh yeah.
oh, sorry.
Oh no, you're good. You're good. Yeah, no, I was just saying, like, from my experience, I can't
Make
speak,
your own content.
Mhm.
yeah, for
Agreed.
sure. I wanted to be that kid who, did the hard. Well, I grinded on YouTube in a way, but I mean, grinding and auditioning left and right and being that classic Hollywood. That's what I really wanted to do. But YouTube ended up helping me in the way. Not saying that it was a surefire way. A lot of people got misconstrued and just assumed because the tabloids knew what they were doing. They said TikToker, even though I barely go on TikTok. Some said TikToker, Arif Zahir became New Cleveland, or YouTuber, which is, true, but YouTuber, a lot of people read that and said, see, they're just giving it to just anyone because they're a YouTuber on TikTok. But they didn't know I auditioned like 5 or 6 times over the span of a month and a half. Didn't even know if I was going to get it, So I would say it is, that's my experience, and it did help me. But obviously, like, I didn't have, this happened years ago, but I didn't have the cool high-tech camera tech to start a YouTube channel, which is why I just played video games. Yeah, I could just record my gameplay, talk on the microphone, make people laugh. And that's how I built my channel. I didn't have someone to record me or do skits and stuff like that. And, me being a broke little kid, that ended up being this whole thing. Like, till this day, I see these gamers and Twitch streamers that have 3 monitors and like these $1,000 PCs and everything. I still use my MacBook Pro and my PlayStation and just connect it. And if you saw my rig, it's just ghetto, just wires everywhere. Till this day, that's all I've done in my YouTube channel. And I built that, and I became what I am just through that. So just use your talent and upload on a platform, and it will grow, undoubtedly. It might not happen today or tomorrow, but it definitely will happen.
Well, but Arif, I mean, the talent that you're bringing to the technology, the technology is great as a platform, but it's, obviously what
Context.
you have
Yeah.
would have shown you out even in the old school,
Right.
because the thing is, there are a lot of people, who do impressions. I remember I was doing a workshop with a guy, and he played me his, demo stuff, and he had a commercial demo and he had an animation demo, and his animation demo was all copies of existing characters.
Yeah.
and it was flat
Mhm.
because he wasn't acting, he wasn't performing,
Right.
you know, he was just doing something, you know. And but it was funny because I talked to him, I was like, dude, listen to your commercial reel. You're actually performing more there than you are doing these characters. And the thing that you were doing, you know, I mean, the reason they chose you, I know this, is because you could play Cleveland,
Mm.
not just do an impression.
Right.
And also, I know the guys at Family Guy, they're smart enough to know, because there have been mistakes, you know, recastings in the past. You know, there's the famous recasting of Scooby-Doo when Don Messick passed away, and they hired a radio DJ who used to do a Scooby-Doo voice as part of his, you know, morning thing.
Mhm.
But the thing was, he couldn't act.
Act.
He couldn't play Scooby, you know? So if they wrote a line that was basically like something that had been in an episode before, he was fine.
Right.
But when the character had to do something and he had to take that character forward, yeah, no. And that's why eventually they came back around to Frank Welker to do Scooby,
Uh-huh.
Right.
you know, because they needed,
An actor.
I mean, that's the impressions are fun,
Mhm.
but when you can do what you did and take not just like, I'm not just copying, I am playing this character,
Right.
you know? I mean, it's the same things like when, you know, the same people play, you know, King Lear.
Mhm.
Ain't nobody going like, oh, I watched this tape of Laurence Olivier, I'm gonna do it just like him.
Right. Right.
Oh, we're
Right.
not? I'm sorry.
You got to play the role.
Exactly.
And
For sure.
Arif, I just want to shout you out for reminding our watchers and our listeners. You know, I was brushing my teeth in a pool house sink because I didn't have enough money for a full apartment. And
Mhm.
it's not about how expensive your equipment is.
Right.
Okay, I didn't have my own home rig until April of 2020. I was on a USB mic with my not even my laptop, an iPad. I got an Apogee USB mic, used Twisted Wave, $5.99 in the App Store. The USB mic I got secondhand on eBay and used that to book Jade from Mortal Kombat.
Wow.
So, I mean, obviously we all want to now, I've invested more in myself, but
Yeah.
if you are on a tight budget, you don't have to have the $1 million rig. Arif is a perfect example. And what works. Because I
Right.
have people asking me, do I need to be in one of the major cities for voiceover? Not anymore, no.
Mhm.
And of course you want to learn, you want to do as many workshops as you can. There's a lot of free stuff out there. You're at a free thing right now. But look at what Arif is doing and what he just said. If you saw my rig, so don't think in your brain, if I had money, my dreams could happen,
Mhm.
right? What you have right now, just do the best you can. And the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, is going to finish the rest.
Yeah.
Don't let that be the reason you don't start.
Right. You just need enough technology to communicate your talent.
Mhm.
If you have a phone, anybody have a phone? Twisted Wave on your iPhone, at least that's a start, right?
Mhm.
Well,
Sorry, what quickly we I even
no.
audition.
Go Arif.
Oh, no, quickly. When I get auditions and emails, they literally in the bottom goes, you can use your voice memo app to record this audition for voice acting. There's no, I get that all the time, almost every email. So guys, you can use your phone. All right. So
Phones are good nowadays.
yeah.
I think it's intimidating for like the new actor coming in because now everything is from home and it's like, oh, we must have broadcast quality. So it's like, but I just want to start. Like I have to spend
Right.
thousands and thousands of dollars. Just take a first step. Like how Mela said in Arif, all you have to do is take the first step and the path will be laid out. That's all you have to do. You don't have to do too much. Just take the first step.
Mhm.
And with that, we are at our time. And I'm super inspired. I want to thank you guys for sharing your experiences, your journey, your knowledge. I know everyone else watching is inspired. And, you know, from as a people, as a culture, I'm a descendant of a slave who fought in the Civil War, but he fought to see freedom.
Mhm.
But, you know, from that, we've seen as a culture that our self-expression has always been taken away and it's always been under attack, where we had to conform to look like other people, to act like other people. And I think now this is Black history.
Mhm.
And this is us having self-expression. Because when you take away somebody's self-expression, you're never really free.
Right.
And I think we took it back. I think I'm 100% we took it back.
Yeah.
So thank you guys so much. Thank you, Help Network, for even putting this on for Black History Month. Like, what a way to end it, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Lit.
Thank you all. And thank you all for watching. I saw your comments and all your good vibes. We appreciate you. And support your Black actors. They're paving the way.
Yep.
Thank you to everybody out there. I see
Thank
that chatting
you.
of Roland and Amber and people I've actually met.
Mika Warren. Yes, all of these. Just thank you, Ashely, Kimberly, Arif, Phil. Just the little girl in me still, like the 7-year-old in me is like, I can't believe I get to hang out, not only with people I looked up to, but did you ever think we would have like almost a Brady Bunch square and it's us?
Yeah.
It's us. It's important to be seen and to share. And I hope we get to see someone who's watching right now. I look forward to being in a game or a show with you very soon.
Likewise. All right.